Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you, and peace out to the rest of you. Hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. Um, I'm going to start by pointing out that what happened with Adam, and I'm not saying what happened as if it was nothing. I'm saying what happened more so that Adam and Lena and all of them planned. It's going to lead to something rather dismal in the future. I want you to think back to the 80s and 90s. There was no internet for most of it, and there was no social media for any of it. I remember thinking you can find all kinds of information on it. I remember actually, towards the late 90s, I began to realize that the one type of information you could not find was information in the games that women would play. And why they behaved as they did, and who the hell taught all of them to agree to the same games. These are my questions back then, but those were the one thing you could not find on the internet. Then you had internet dating sites, but you couldn't find that information on the internet back then. And you had a whole lot of guys growing up thinking that they were doing worse with women than what they actually were. What happens in that case is that you get a lot of dudes that have either an unnecessary cause for anxiety or an unnecessary anxiety. These guys really do suffer. It's bad for them. It sucks for them. It's not something they did. It's not something they caused. They're still blamed. They did none of it and they're still being blamed. They caused none of it and they're still being blamed. I tell my students oftentimes that when it comes down to the internet, that they should not, sorry, my sinuses are acted up. They should not believe everything that they see. But I also tell them that they should not use the internet to try to find a spouse. I also tell them that you can use the internet to find out information like studies that show different genders' behavior and why. Such as why it is that women want to say they're independent and still want guys to have a lot of money. In any case, when you look back in those days, you had these guys that were going around, many of us were going around thinking that we had to do about as well as with the women as other guys were, and you didn't want to be the one doing the worst, and that we were all really close to being the ones doing the worst with these women. We all had that mindset, that impression at one point. I want to state to you this. I shouldn't say we all, but a lot of us did. Unnecessarily. I actually was going through that in my hometown, but the way that I knew this was because I was one of the few that was actually willing to discuss with trustworthy men what I was seeing, what I was dealing with. Sometimes they actually were surprised. If sometimes they saw evidence, they themselves might be surprised, like, what, does she know you or something? Did you do something to her? Nope. Don't know her. And of course, later on, it was explained to me that, yes, you were going to be treated from 1990 onward. You were going to be treated worse than other guys because you weren't scary and intimidating and this sort of, you were not going to be treated the same way. You just weren't. So therefore, I wasn't treated exactly the same, but many guys weren't treated necessarily a lot worse than other guys were. I mean, what I'm saying is a lot of guys who thought they were being treated worse were being treated about the same. Something else happened later on. Something else continued on. The internet became household, and then social media became household later. And the information spread. And Austin Holloman is one of the steps in the spread of this information that a lot of guys are being dealt with unnecessarily harshly. According to women's own rules, unnecessarily harshly. In other words, the women themselves don't really have rules stating that they should be dealing with these guys this particular way. That's what I mean. So, with that being said, these men are finding out that a lot of guys are going through this. You weren't wrong. And I don't think that the message is spreading fast enough that whatever mistreatment you dealt with them from them was not your fault. I don't think that's spreading fast enough. And we got one of the reasons I go in on the underwhelming Lucas is because he's one of those that goes with the old message. If they did this, that, and the other to you, it's your fault. No. Who told brothers? Who was out there telling brothers what the rules were? Brothers had to figure it out. Social media has helped a lot of younger brothers figure it out a lot younger in life. And that's why guys my age, like Isaiah in Houston, could not accept that Austin Holloman at age 23 knew enough to do what he was doing. If he was 13, that would have still been the right decision. He did what he knew to do because he has the benefit of having other people's experiences and his own. That's what social media does. If you use sources of information the right way as sources of information, you can learn from the mistakes of others and from their successes. Isaiah is one of them old plantation Negroes, like Fiddler, because he don't know no better. The underwhelming Lucas is like a younger version of Fiddler that does have access to the same information. He just wants to be like Fiddler because the plantation hyenas will heckle and cackle and cheer him on. And even then, they won't respect him enough to bend the uck forward. And I'm not encouraging fornication by saying that that's a problem. I'm stating that because the ladies who won't bend over for him don't have anything against fornication. That's why I say to this Muslim brother, Jay Johnson, on Facebook, that while I believe in chastity, I understand that the ladies don't necessarily believe in it. And I'm talking about their mindset and their psychology so that men can understand it. These ladies aren't saying no because of chastity. They're not even saying no in order to control reproduction. They are saying no for ego. That's it. And they're still racking up high body counts. That's what's happening. Now, what does Adam and Lena and Jason Love's triangle have to do with this? Here it is. And understand this. Adam 22 can come along and release the statement he wants to release. But the thing is, he wasn't talking to Jason. And I can tell because I don't know what Jason Love said. I'm not keeping up with this in depth. And the video's not available here. And I wouldn't know what channel to look for it anyway. And I'd rather not see it, obviously. But two YouTubers have said that Jason shot the club up. He didn't pull out. He practiced the black mind marital specialty, cream pieing the cervix. Well, if he did that, that tells me a lot. I mean, tells me a good bit about Adam and Lena. But Jason did say in an interview, and I saw a part of the interview, Jason did say, well, of course, I expect that she's attached to him. There's love involved. So Adam has to be different to her. I'm just physically different. He downplayed his distinction to Lena. So when Adam released a statement stating something like, "Love, do you know anything about that, Jason?" He wasn't talking to Jason. He was talking to other people. He was talking to the audience that is looking at him and saying, "You're a cuck, bro." That's to whom he was speaking. But let's get to what this really means, though. What it really means that they did this is that, you see, Adam and Lena are closer to mainstream news. Now, I don't know what Lena did before they married. I don't even know what Adam did before they got married. But what I do know is that what they just agreed to do with Jason Love is, though it's not on CNN, it is on mainstream news. That is known. It is on. I mean, it's closer to mainstream news than before. So what everybody knew happened, open marriages, cheating, and cuckolding, is now closer to mainstream news than it was. That further desensitizes the public to the concept of the open marriage. Here's where there's a problem with it. Go back again to the 80s and 90s with the information that was available to us men, to the women, especially to us men. We did not realize how many other guys were going through the same difficulties we would have experienced. The internet was not there for the most of that, and social media was not there for any of it. Even up into the 2000s, a lot of guys thought so. Okay, now let's continue on. If we move forward with social media being what it is, one of the things to which men are not going to talk about that often is if they are involved in an open marriage. The women, they might be glad to say, "I'm in an open marriage." "Oh, you catch me with another man? Tell him we're in an open marriage." The men are not necessarily going to publicize this that much. This will lead to many men feeling like they are doing worse than other men with women all over again, despite the availability of finding out the truth with social media. Now, some could say, no, social media is going to be the means by which many guys find out that they're in a normal situation. That is possible, but you have to understand that in the meantime, the sanctity of marriage is further eroded than what it already has been. And we have seen that Western women are willing to take gambles, not only because they're okay with risk. It's more so because they are okay with loss of certain things. They're willing to gamble that which they're willing to lose. And we know they're willing to lose husbands because they don't lose the support. If they don't qualify for alimony, they'll get child support. They are not going to work if they don't have to. So fast forward. Not to now, but fast forward into the future. It's a gamble, but they're willing to take it. And in the meantime, they'll get something out of it. And in the meantime, a lot more men will be stuck with the notion that they are doing worse than other men because their wives will be coming through the house with guy after guy after guy after guy. And they might even look to see, well, how many of these guys does she bring through twice and how many times does she bring the same guys through in the midst of all the guys who come once, never come back. All puns intended. They will begin to ask themselves this. They will not be racking up high body counts like their wives will. And they will think, well, if all these different guys are coming through the house, then that means that it must be easy for these other guys. Why is it not easy for me? Okay, something's wrong with me, and I'm not going to put this on social media. They will go to therapists and counselors who are bound by confidentiality laws. And they will be lucky if the therapists and counselors, especially if they're women, tell them a lot of guys are going through this. See, what therapists that are ladies have been telling and marriage counselors have been telling men for the most part is, well, you men need to work on this, that, and the other. A lot of guys, and then they start listing the failures of the men. They don't say a lot of guys and then start listing what the women are doing to these men. They don't even tell one client that. And granted, I can understand why they may not say one of those, but then why would they say the other? Because if it's about client confidentiality, even when you say anonymously, many clients, this, that, and the other, if it's about client confidentiality, why are they willing to tell black men in therapy that a lot of men need to work on this, that, and the other, and not tell them a lot of men are having this, that, and the other done to them? It doesn't go logically. So it doesn't stand up to logic. So what it means is that a lot of lady therapists are simply there with their feminist agendas. Like Shabri Rawls. Until Shabri learns to submit to someone in all ways, she deserves no support. And it was women that turned her in. Wasn't even dudes. And there are dudes that are apologizing to her for men turning her in when it was women that turned her in. Because, as I've stated, we are seeing that the wicked witches of the West are so vile that they are turning off. They're disgusting now the women that don't mean us any harm. But the women that don't mean us any harm also have to play it safe because, well, they're subdued in silence. Getting back to this, what they're going to do is set back the progress of men again who get married. And Lena and Adam probably did not think about this at that time, but that's what they've contributed to. I'm sorry, that is to what they have contributed. Jason Love was there for the money because he gets paid to do this. When I looked up basic info on Jason Love, I found out that not only is he also from the Gulf Coast, apparently he's from Ville Platte, and Ville Platte is really a small town. You drive through it, you blink, you miss it. It's like that. There used to be sharecroppers in Ville Platte, and there might still be some. It's not far from Interstate 10. And I grew up within walking distance of Interstate 10. Ville Platte. But anyway, I found out more about him. One of the things I found out is that the site said that he did many, I remember it saying interracial and internal scenes. I don't remember if it said cuckoldry or not. I don't recall. But pretty much he's up in the guts of white women as a habit and not pulling out, shooting up the club. That's what's going on? Okay. If that's the case, then I'll tell you this about what he's dealing with, about what the rest of us are. He's desensitized to this. But if that's what he's specializing in, that means that he already, that means that by now he contributed to this without even thinking about what he was doing. He's already done the thinking part. And now he's just on autopilot doing it. In any case, either two of them contributed to this carelessly, and one of them did it on autopilot, or two of them contributed to this carelessly and one of them didn't realize he was doing it. And that's if what I read about his specialties or his genres are not correct. So what I'm telling you is you must abandon and refuse marriage in front of the state. You must know also that more and more men who go and make approaches to marriage, who propose marriage, are going to be told that it must be an open marriage. And that the men who are not in these spaces online need to be told about this face to face, because if they are not told about this face to face, they won't know what they're facing and what they're seeing when they start talking to these ladies and proposing marriage and asking for dates and things like that. But if you tell them about this face to face, bit by bit by bit, one of these days, some lady is going to show them what they've already been told about by you. And they will have to come back and say, damn, where did you learn this? And that's when you open the floodgates. Not just links to my channel, links to mine. Average Men Unplugged, Unplugged Traveler, Austin Holloman, Kevin Samuel's old stuff. And even when you go day to day and you say, listen, this is what you can expect. And they say, wait, you sound like Kevin Samuels. Just say, you know what? Act like you don't know who he is. That's a good tactic. Act like you have no clue who Kevin Samuels is. Or like, okay, wait a minute. That's what he used to say? Wait a minute. I thought he used to say, all this misogynistic stuff. Hold on, let me go look him up. Then you come back and say, bruh, I found what he used to say. It was backed up by evidence. That's why they hated him. And then you send the floodgates. Open the floodgates and send the links. School them on what he used to say. After you acted like they the ones that put you on. Because that's really going to do something in the mind that's going to take away their ability to argue against you. Which is fine, because you'll already be right and they'll be wrong. But understand, this is serious. What we're facing. You're facing a scenario in which men will be psychologically brought back to being as lost in the storm as we were back in the 80s and 90s, even with social media. If their gamble pays off, and that's what they're going to be gambling on. I hope that what I've said is a benefit. Thank you for listening. As always, Black Call, Black Mind, Blackout. Assalamu alaikum. Black heterosexual non-select male power because they don't like it. Black patriarchy until extinction of Judgment Day. I did not talk about this in the beginning, but if you have not already done so, please punch the Cash App button on your way out of the jet black aircraft. If not for me, then for Brother Hayes. Only for amounts that are small for you. Please don't enter in that which you will miss later. Thank you for flying again with us on Jet Black Airways, where jet black is also a verb. Keep jetting black with us until the wings and the wheels fall off. Gender, justice, forever.